All right, we are live. Thank you for everybody out there. I did put it out that we were going to go live at 2:30, and we thought, what the hell, we'll go a little bit early for a change. Usually we're running late in these things because we're having a bit of a pre-discussion that gets exciting, and we double hash everything. Today I've got Jason and Des from the Anti-Corruption Academy. Now, over the last year or so, you would have definitely heard me talk about them at length. And I have been blessed to at least attend one of their full days, teaching a lot of the stuff that I talk about on my whiteboards. Obviously, I do it in the layman. These guys are the ones that teach the French. I'm trying to learn enough to be able to order a croissant. That's about as best as I can get out of that. But some wonderful information. So I'll just take your admin thing down, Des and Jason, if that's all right, just so that they can see your names and know who's who. But obviously they'll work it out pretty quick. But thanks for coming on, and tell us a bit about what you're doing.
Yep. So Des, you can start. It's probably better if you start, then I'll move on.
Good on you. Yeah, no, we've been at this for quite a few years now, and it all I like everybody else. Over the years, you're looking, you go quite a few different avenues, down a lot of rabbit holes, and I was fortunate enough to be introduced to David Walter, he's ex-territory cop, and the information he has supplied and how, what, where, and when. All his information there that he's put forward is that, especially when you read his documents, you've got to keep an understanding it's done in a style of a policeman's brief when he's going to court.
CQP 9.
Yeah, and he puts, there's the evidence, and how you're doing it. It was confusing for me. Now I'm reasonably fluid with it. I can understand a lot of it. And yeah, it's taken us a long way. I'd admit when ACA first kicked off, we were going along the lines of grand juries. We were chasing that. Mm-hmm. But once you know what has gone on, to hold a grand jury, you therefore become the very thing you are fighting against, because you cannot self-appoint. No way. Now, and what I find over a lot of time and that is that you hear a lot from colonial laws and the British laws and hooey, spit it out, it's no good. Just sit back for a while and have a think about it. If you're looking for a solution, and as we know out there, and they tried to put out there in the alternative media, they could put anti-information. And the best way to keep you away from something where it's your answers and solutions may lay, they got to keep you away from it. And look, it's doing a good job, and it also keeps different groups at divide and at each other and their different beliefs. But we can't get away from the fact that of where our legal system comes from. It doesn't matter.
The origins
of it. Now,
no, we're doing a lot of work with this at the moment, Des, and yeah. I'm the eternal antagonist of all things that are historic, because I wasn't brought up with anything. I had a blank whiteboard. Our family had no religion. Our family had no historic ties to politics. So it's a lot easier for me to be malleable with the information that I learn than the average person that grew up in a house with a certain way.
Yep.
We were talking prior to this, and we've been having lots of conversations about the validity of the Constitution in its 1901 form. Could you give us, Jason, a little bit of info of who you are, what part you play, and what you think about that, for example?
Well, I can actually go a bit of a spill on it. in regards to things. But first, I'll start with I'm Jason. I'm ACA's researcher. I find documents. I go deep. I found, for an example, and I've put in my court case, documents on oaths to the Queen of Australia prior to 1990 and things of that nature. Also, one out there for people to look up is the Nationality Amendment Act 1953, and go down to the schedule to do with the oath. In 1953, they did an oath as an Australian citizen. That's where the oaths to the Australian Queen was in 1990. Another thing is, again, you go to 1942, Westminster Adoption Act. Section 4 states that all acts can't be passed by United Kingdom unless it expressly excluded from Australia, from the Commonwealth. I've done FOIs that shows that they do not have the authority to Section 1 of the Constitution of 1901, what consists of the Queen, the Senate, and the Parliament. So in 1942, they removed the Parliament in Section 8, 9, and 10, I believe, of the 6, 8, 9, 10. Section 4 is to do with the making of laws. So they removed the Parliament, and without the Parliament, they can't make laws. Now, if you go and look at when the Parliament moved from Sydney to ACT, it would be rough. Melbourne to ACT, my apologies. It would be around the 1940s, 50s anyways, what was around the time that they removed themselves from the United Kingdom.
Yep.
The Australia Act, and Des and I was talking about, there's actually, in regards to the Westminster of the 1931, what 1942 is made from, is speaking in regards of the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution and the Commonwealth Constitution. So 2 constitutions, and Des and I was just having a debate on that just prior. What brought to the question to do with the 1900 UK and the 1901 Commonwealth Constitution. Des stated to me just a little bit ago, before we got into conversations a couple of minutes ago, that the 1900 Constitution had to be created first in the United Kingdom to give us the authority to put it to a referendum for the 1901 to be referendum approved and assented to.
Well, see, it had to go to the 1900 UK.
That's right. Yeah.
For the commencement on the 1st of January 1901. So think, got to use a few brain cells here. You cannot discount the 1900 UK, because it had to be created first to bring in the 1900. That allowed the establishment of the Parliament, because on the 31st of December, was the Parliament there?
No.
So this is where people are getting confused and everything like that. And you follow the Acts number 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you got the Electoral Act of 1901,
yes,
where you got to be of the age of 21. It's never ever been changed. 1903. Then you got the Coinage Act of
1902,
1909.
Oh, sorry,
But you got to then after that, that's when you bring in the military. You had to have the Coinage Act to pay your military.
Right.
There is a set pattern on how things are done, and
identical to the alphabet.
Yes, and you got to know the numbers. And, yeah, these things. People really get lost on it, and too. And yeah, and what is the first few words of the Constitution?
Whereas the people invested by New South Wales, etc., all the states.
Yeah. So it's not didn't say whereas the politician, didn't say whereas the banks, didn't say whereas by
the government.
Government didn't say anything. It's whereas we are the Constitution. There's a public service.
Yep.
And then you also got to find between Crown service and public servants, and the police and the judges are Crown servants, not public servants. That's a different kettle of fish. And yeah.
So you would say that the the Constitution is valid, or would you say that
Yes,
there was a
it's valid.
split? Yep.
Well, it's valid because, again, I'll bring up the Westminster Adoption Act 1942, where it removed the Parliament. Now, that's the part that's mostly important, is they removed the Commonwealth Parliament from United Kingdom and the Commonwealth.
Yep.
Separated each other.
Yep.
Again,
The reasoning for that, and
hang on.
Yeah,
I'll finish this and you can jump onto that. You got to remember that Des just said that the 1900 was to be created in the United Kingdom before the 1901. So if you, in 1942, they removed the Parliament from the United Kingdom and Australia making laws, or Commonwealth making laws, then that only affects, and it says it in there, that it does not affect the Commonwealth Constitution. So they're talking about the 1901, but it is still held to the United Kingdom because the originating Constitution is the 1900. So the 1901 is held to the 1900. What is held to the United Kingdom, it is still a United, and it says in Section 8 of the preamble that it is a self-governing colony of the United Kingdom.
exactly. That's what my point was going to be.
Yeah. So therefore,
Who did we send them the draft from Australia in 1989? In 1899
Quick
or
and Garran,
1900?
Quick and
We
Garran,
sent them Did we send them the draft?
Yes, they sent a draft over.
Did
And
we
of
vote
course-
on the draft? Did we vote on the draft?
That's
before it
what
left?
Quick
It's a
and
bill.
Garran was all about. That 10 years leading up to all those meetings, and they voted there. And basically, it was back then. It was only landholders that
could do the vote.
do the voting, and then they made agreements that took 10 years. Then it went over there. That was drafted up,
Made into a bill.
made into the bill, the act, and it was
First
sent
the
out
bill,
to
then the act.
it was sent out to the colonies, and then the colonies had to formulate its existence in 1901 to say yes, we will go with that.
Mm.
And to create the Commonwealth, it had to come out of the Companies Act, a UK with the lion, unicorn seal on it, and also the Partnership Act of 1890.
Mhm.
And as we show in our talks and everything, we show you how the political parties created their own, especially in Queensland. They created their 1891 Partnership Act. We are not in there. We're in the Company Act, because even on the definition of company, only living souls can be a company. We're not a corporation.
So what's the formula for the average punter out there? Because you're well battled warriors against the system. What's the average punter who's getting slayed by the system at the moment?
Well, what really went on, and then especially with David Walter, he had to exhaust all avenues. He went through and done all the high courts, knowing he knew the high courts had never had the authority or the vote thing, because the current High Court of Australia is registered to the Republic of Nauru, and
Nauru's not Australia.
it's not Australia, because the Australian government is foreign to the people. That's what Sue versus Hill, the High Court of Australia, Sue versus Hill. Heather Hill wanted to go into the Senate for One Nation back in the day, in 1999 or whatever it was, and it was exactly the same scenario. It's playing out to this present day with Pauline Hanson. They have to muddy the water. They have to stop it in any way possible. And they find out, how are we going to do that? Heather Hill. And it was the best thing out, because they cut their nose off just to spite their face. Because in the attempt to stop, I'm not supporting Pauline here, because a political party is not the way to go. Because it's actually in breach of the Companies Act, because you're not allowed to collude, because we all hold one share in the Commonwealth. I can't collude with Jaden to outvote you, Jody. That's collusion. Mm-hmm. And what's a political party? It's collusion. They're in breach of the Companies Act. So with that, in their wisdom, they took her to the High Court of Australia. And as they proved that Heather Hill
Was a
British subject, listen very carefully, Heather Hill, don't forget where we said where the Constitution comes from, out of the Parliament of the United Kingdom. Keep it firmly in your head that Heather Hill, being a British subject, was foreign to the Australian government.
And I'd like to note on that, if you go on to the Australian Federal Legislation website, look up the Australian Citizenship Act 1948, and then go look up the Nationality and Citizenship Act 1948. There's two nationality citizenship acts, and that's what Sue versus Hill's all about.
So in that, we're British subjects, Irish citizen, or protected persons. And yet you go looking for, and Jaden done his memorandum of nationality, is that there's no definition for Australian citizen.
The Passport Act 1948, the originating Passport Act, and the passport people do not want to talk to me. They say they follow the current law. I said, how did you amend it without the definition? The Passport Act 1948, in the definition for an Australian citizen, is within the meaning of the Nationality and Citizenship Act, not the Australian Citizenship Act that Sue versus Hill speaks of. It's in the Nationality and Citizenship Act 1948. And the only closest thing you can get to that is Section 5. An alien is not a British subject, an Irish citizen, or a protected person. Section 8 of the same act states that you can put a claim in and become back to a British subject after the thing. Section 9 says that if you're an Australian citizen, you get charged, but if you're a British subject, you only through the Navigation Act. Section 26 of the act states that if you declare yourself an Australian citizen, you cease to be a British subject. Right? So under Section 26, Heather Hill was in contradiction because she had dual citizenship, what breached Section 26, and that's why she was foreign.
And there brings about another thing, because
you don't have to talk about where this is, but read that to them.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is a court case, and we can't quite actually speak of what court case it is. But
this is the court case. I know which one it's at, and I'll read it word for word. What this is, and
this came from.
I'm happy to transfer off the public too, guys, because we've got our private.
No. This is fine to be on public, but we won't say where we got it from.
No, I've got it from. But this is a magistrate speaking. People come to these courts in the hope of receiving justice. I have no doubt that's what brought Mrs.
Such and such
to this court. Courts, where possible, try to give justice, particularly when the rights of the individual citizen is being trampled upon by executive government. But a court may only give justice which is allowed by law. Sadly, this law does not allow me to do justice for Mrs.
Such and such.
She has my sincere sympathy. Unfortunately, the law does not permit me to do anything else for her. Now, the biggest thing is there, it says executive government. Well, I hate using the word government. It's executive private industry or private thing.
Business.
So this is what I mentioned about the cessation of the Commonwealth for the introduction of the United States petrodollar in the 14th of February 1966, is that they started paying their own people in their own business for their services to their business. Well, actually, we should use the word firm, because they use the word firm. So they get paid in the currency of the firm for their services to the firm. And then they can only use the laws,
policies and philosophies.
Their policies and philosophies of the firm. We got nothing to do with it. So therefore, what we have done, we I think you might have seen one, Jody, there that we do a petition of right, and I was one of the very first persons to do it, because as David Walter had to exhaust all avenues, he had to petition the Queen and said, "There's no Governor General here. There's nothing here. There's no courts. There's nothing." But he had exhausted. He even went to the International Court in The Hague, and he even had a reply from Ban Ki-moon. And basically what they said is that we can't help you, because take the word government out. I don't like using the word government, but when you both think, it said the Australian government is a private business. We can't deal with a business. But they said, we can't help you. We can help you if they're a government. But the only way you are going to do this is you've got to use the Australian business tribunals. Are they going to cut their own throat? You can't do it. You can't vote them out. You can't use. So therefore,
just the conversation in regards to The Hague already shows enough that we are in a business, and we're not under the Constitution nor any form of government.
Well,
so foreign occupation, guys, foreign occupation or local?
No, just business.
It's
McDonald's. McDonald's is making you pay for registration.
Yeah.
KFC making you pay for land tax.
But the KFC's security guard
is employed by Macca's.
Now, I, along with myself and another person, backed up David Walter's petition to the Crown to reinstate the
Governor.
appointed Governor General, to reinstate the Commonwealth under pound, shillings, and pence, and everything like that. And that was done because in one of his communiques with with Buckingham Palace, Elizabeth said, "You have a constitution, use it." So therefore, this is why we push the petition of right. It's a matter of jurisdiction. Hey, if you want to be under the Australian government as an Australian citizen, you're welcome. I am not going to stop you, but don't drag me in there. Now, everybody speaks of treason, treason, treason. No, guess who's committing treason? You people. Every time you vote in their system, every time you go and cross your name in their system, you turn your back on your constitution. It is you who's committing treason. So when you do your petition of right and you stand in that jurisdiction, then if they come after you and drag you back into their jurisdiction, then they're committing treason. So we do the petition of right, and thanks for the good work of Mona. She's also put in there the fiduciary duty. Couple those two together, and if you understand what a fiduciary duty is, and not that I trust a lawyer or anything like that, but they're not supposed to, once they know the truth, they're not allowed to do anything else. So a fiduciary duty, you put your petition of right into it. You tell them what has happened, they've got to leave you alone. So can we fix it? Can we fix it? No. Can we make it that, hey, you operate your business, but leave me alone. Leave me out of it. I'm not part of your system. And anybody who registers themselves as a member of a political party, they're in a different system. And fortunately enough, in one of those court cases up in Cairns with my brother and Finley Cox, another founding member of the ACA, come across Greg Tudor. And the work that Greg's doing, I really understand what he's doing, because Greg's gone down along the lines, and I endorse his work. I reckon he's doing a good job, because he now comes across that they abandoned the Commonwealth. So therefore, these registered, you've got to understand, these registered political parties hold no land. They have no assets. So who do they make? Who do they make you? How do they get their collateral? Every time you strike your name off at the ballot box every couple of years, because you give them a de facto power
Relationship.
attorney, and then through your birth certificates, they use your inalienable human rights, and they borrow money against it and take your equitable interest in that. And
Can I just ask a question just out of the audience? So, this is the original draft that was sent over, the 1899 draft that was sent over to the UK Constitution to bid, and the first one is the draft. So this act shall bind the Crown and its provision is referring to the Queen and shall extend to Her Majesties. And the right hand one is what came back.
Yeah, the right hand one came back. Now, have a look at the Crown. This act is binding on the Crown. Reference the Queen and extent to the King or the Queen at the time being. Now, you got to understand, you've heard of the saying in the old films there, long live the King or long live the Queen. Well, the office or the office or the title, the office of or the condition of the king always remains. But as a living person may hold the title from time to time. So as you know, it went to Edward, George, to Elizabeth, and there's a big question mark around Charlie at the moment, but it went to Elizabeth. So that's time from time. So long live the king, long live the queen, but only the title holder dies. Mm-hmm. That's what that means. That sets the crown, this act. That's why they brought that back. Mm. This act is to be binding on the crown. Reference the queen and queen from time to time for the time being. So there could be a queen, there could be a female holding the title, there could be a male holding the title from time to time.
So who's accountable in those two scenarios?
They are. Yeah.
I would say, what was it? When an act is binding on the crown,
it's binding on us.
It's binding on us, and everyone is responsible. But when an act does not bind the crown, whoever's enforcing it is enforcing as a private individual, as you and I are on this meeting here today.
So if it's not binding on the crown, it's not binding on us. And there's so much information we've got on our hand of what we do, especially in the last few weeks. So yeah, that there can be a bit of a misconception, and people are not reading properly. And it's like all acts. And then this old mate tells me, read what it says. Don't read it as what you think it is or you want it to be. Read for what it says.
What about the Treaty of Versailles?
Versailles, nothing to do with us, because you read the Constitution. The Commonwealth of Australia is for the erection of the self-governing colony of the United Kingdom.
Needs the King and Queen to sign it.
We are under the umbrella or annexed under the United Kingdom. So that's why Australia has not got a voting rights on the seats of the United Nations. Never has, never will.
The act was signed by the Governor General, though.
Nope. It may have been signed by a private individual.
But he actually
the Treaty of Versailles, and that Billy Hughes was told, take it back to your people, have a referendum, and let the people decide. But Billy Hughes signed it as a private individual. Is it binding on us?
No.
No.
So the Westminster Act would be no different?
That's it.
No, the Westminster Act was a legislation done within the jurisdiction of the sections of the Constitution. As example, Section 51 of the Constitution of nationality and etc. That was done correctly and approved using the Westminster 1931. So
Why
when
did it
it
take 11 years to ratify into an act over here?
beg pardon?
Why did it take 11 years for us? There's controversy behind why we waited 11 years before we suddenly went out and backdated it because of the war, war times. Is there a reason for the 11 years before we?
You got to look at this, buddy, and it's also in Sue versus Hill, where the so-called High Court judges are put in there. It was an evolutionary process. So how do you cook a frog? They recognised in that court case there was subtle changes over a long period of time.
And they did not want to address it either.
They didn't want to address it. And when the money was changed over, you see, it's right down to the remuneration for the Governor General. To this day, it's still in pounds. He's still got to be paid in pounds. So therefore, on 40th of February 1966, they started paying their own people. Sir John Kerr was the last Governor General
To be paid.
to hold letters patent. Ever since then, no Governor General has held the letters patent because they're getting paid in what?
Before you continue with that, well, of course, I was got paid with $1. But before we go on that, I like to bring back that we are under 106 of the Constitution, 107, 108, and 109 of the Constitution 1900 and 1901 Commonwealth. That puts the states or the colonies into the states, into the Commonwealth, and everything has to be in line. So, for an example, in Queensland, there's never been a referendum for the pound. New South Wales, all the other states have not had a referendum for the pound to be changed to $1. And you say, well, it's in line with the Constitution 1900. Well, the Constitution 1900, under Section 51, changed the pound to the dollar, but the dollar was never changed.
The Constitution was never changed.
No. In the section under currency, they changed the pound to the dollar, but it was never changed in the states. And again, 109 jumps to the ladder, as the states never changed their pound because it's got to coexist, right? Coexist with the originating Constitution of the 1900. They never changed their pound to the dollar, so all states are still held in the pound and not the dollar, what breaches 109.
Yeah. So in 1965, the Queensland Parliament voted down twice for the introduction of the Australian dollar. So if you understand how the referendum operates, you have a majority vote in each of the founding states or the originating states of the Commonwealth. You got to have a majority vote, but you got to have 100%. That's all 6 states to agree.
Yes.
So therefore, Queensland voted twice in 1965.
To segue.
Yep.
Yeah. To segue in, and it's why I said to the people at the start of this that French is the language of the gentleman that we have on today, and the layman for ourselves. We can't we can't bring any more information necessary forward to show how much fraud and treason has been partaken on us from the days of it. The Constitution itself is either one of two things. It's either a strong enough document that allowed the Parliament to do what it did, or it never had the power to stop it.
No, it was very powerful. It was very powerful for what it did. They mothballed it. Here's a really good. The last man to be hung in Australia was bloke by the name of Ryan. He was the last vote in 1967, but he got convicted in 1963. But he was done under a court of the Crown with all the proper seals of that Crown. He was held in, and he was the last person to be hung in Australia. And everybody said, because all the orders and everything that were done, he exhausted his appeals and everything like that, and that he was still done under that system. Then everybody says, oh, they should bring
The new system.
capital punishment back. It's still there. We just haven't got courts of competent jurisdiction of the Crown to make them judgments because we've got private individuals there.
So individually, the people of this country, how would we take our country back rather than individually?
It is your right and duty under the Constitution as a shareholder in that, whereas the people is to, because the Crown sits there as the CEO or in the chair. So what has happened under the Australia Act and everything like that, they realised that they could not sit in that our Parliament building in Canberra, that white one. They made their own corporate palace up the road. They can do whatever they want in there, because have a look at the seals on the foyer of that building. Have a look in the seals behind the Speaker's chair in that building. It's the same seal on your Constitution.
But the Queen knows it. The Queen knows all this. She partook in it.
Yeah,
hang on.
she knew about that.
Hang on. And my take on it is it's not that we should go back to, right? It's like if you jumped in the car and you went to Macca's, right, and they didn't like you there, and so it's 12 o'clock at night and you can buy 24 hours, and they didn't want you there, well, you would drive home, wouldn't you? You wouldn't drive down the road and park at the park and expect to live there, right? So it's the same with the Constitution. We got chucked in Macca's, and we don't like Macca's. We don't like the policies and philosophies of McDonald's, and we want to go back home. Well, home is it's already there. And again, the Queen has told David, you've got the Constitution, use it. Yeah. And again, I would go back to
So just before we get too far off it, why did she let it happen to us then if we were such faithful subjects?
Because nobody gave her instructions. Now you got to look at it this way: the political parties now. Yeah, the Labor Party and Gough Whitlam did with the creating of the bloody Queen of Australia and everything like that. But getting back to the money, there were 7 members of the Liberal Party signed an agreement. We agree amongst ourselves for the introduction of the Australian dollar.
Understood. That all post-dates her first work into this foray.
Hang on.
What happened is too, prior to 1960, the UK was starting to make rumblings to enter into the EU. And the Crown said, no, you can't do that. And then she then brought out the Bodies Corporate Contracting Act of 1960. That's where you must have a wet ink signature between the 2 consenting parties. Have you got a wet ink signature between yourself and the political parties? Well, it's got nothing to do with you. That's why we do our petition of right. We petition the Crown. Once you do that and send it to over there, we're fortunate enough to do it in the time of Elizabeth. And there's a big question mark over the validity of Charlie, because you have a look at the Beefeaters and the Queen's Guard. They still got ER still on them. That's Elizabeth Regina. Means Queen, and it's ER 11 or 2, and they haven't changed it because she swore her oath under the Church of England. Charlie done it under the Anglican Church. So therefore,
How would she swear an oath under the Church of England with a St. Edward's crown sitting on the top of her head that had been burnt and melted?
You can go along like that if you want it, but she's done it under thing, and it's a solemn contract under the.
Oh, I get it, but I'm just saying that signifies a Roman.
No, well, what has happened, and two, don't forget, through Scotland, they've been, and two is that, remember the Great Charter. 2 times after the Great Charter was created, the Church of Rome tried to interfere with it to try and take the power away from the English people. And they tried to do it 70 years after the Great Charter, when the parliaments were actually created, and they couldn't do it. So that still stands. And they actually tried to do it through the royalty in Scotland, because they're still under the Church of Rome.
Yeah,
they've been.
Yeah, I get it. What I'm saying is, for the average person, this will never be a remedy. You know, every avenue that we're talking about, every group that we have on and we talk about, there's a billion lists long of proof.
Yeah.
We know, everybody knows now, wholeheartedly in our heart, we know that we've been corrupted. But the power that's been corrupted is 2 things. The Queen Victoria that supposedly gave us her blessing to be birthright of this land, and the Constitution that would protect it.
Yeah, it's under by the grace of Almighty God, and that's why the defender of the faith is here. This is why.
But she removed that.
No, she didn't. She was still under the Church of England. Guess who removed it?
Signed off on the oath getting changed, didn't she, Des? Didn't the oath change where they removed that?
The oaths and all that are still the same. She didn't do it. Charlie changed it, but you know.
Hang on. Charlie didn't change it. I'll jump in, right? I'll jump in. That the history of the laws getting changed and how the Queen didn't intercept and help us out and all that other stuff. I'll go from day to day to day, right? From date to date to date, because.
I just want to finish off a point I was making in 1960, because she made the Bodies Corporate Contracting Act. Why? Because England was trying to enter the EU. She said, no, don't do that. You're committing treason. So what they do? They dropped the pound sterling, and they brought in the new English. The new pound, the digital pound. Exactly what 4 or 5 years